Okay, after several attempts of trying to record this video on Prezi and getting it to save and upload, we're gonna try another attempt. It means we're gonna have to run it straight through. So this is our presentation on poverty and development for week 5. I hope you enjoy our presentation. So what Escobar considered to be the war on poverty emerged after World War II due to the specific historical conditions, the effects of capital market, and the processes such as the move from community provided resources and those provided at the organizational level. The population of the now first, second, and third worlds would have to spend the following decades learning why and how their own situations and their own countries fit into the newly defined hierarchy of the global economy. The effect of the problematization of poverty has led to the construct of the current discourse on development. A coherent, all-encompassing, hegemonic system through which every idea must pass. It has remained unchanged since the late 1940s and 50s and has ultimately shaped the reality of development. It has led to the construction of the idea of the third world as a coherent place that must be managed and understood using the objective tools of science and technology. The construction of the idea of poverty allowed the developed world to gain raw materials, intervene, and strengthen capital markets to the detriment of the developing world. Patriarchy and ethnocentrism influenced the form of development took. Indigenous populations had to modernize, where modernization meant the adoption of the right values, namely those held by white minority or the mestizos majority, and in general, those embodied in the idea of the cultivated European. Parfait Elundu raises the question: do the SDGs related to the economic growth contradict those related to environmental sustainability and inclusivity? Democratic aspects of the SDGs have been used to achieve the greatest amount of good for the most amount of people. It's not just a consideration of how many people, also how the population is composed, considering their ages, their education levels. For example, a youth bulge can be a productive or a destabilizing force. The ideas and the constructs of class need more consideration in the SDGs. We need to consider raising opportunities for mobility for all, not just for those at the very bottom or the very top. Dan recognizes education's role in perpetuating the myth of upward mobility. As long as you do X, Y, Z, then you will graduate and you will find lifelong employment with enough money to buy a car and a house and to raise your family and to eventually retire. Development actors and organizations have structured the searching um, as searching for the best return on investment, using a GDP as a measuring stick to justify investing in certain levels or types of education. We can consider that education may not necessarily be of a higher quality as we move more and more students into the educational system. National averages of the number of students in schools may be deceptive due to internal migration to urban areas, due to globalization and migration in general. He also mentions how educational institutions reward some forms of intelligence over others, which raises the debate of, do schools teach what students need to know to be good members of society? And of course, is this a level playing field? So, like the other experts this week, Wagner finds the SDGs an important improvement over previous goals, but critiques equity as being theoretical rather than actually addressing the practical problem. We're going to look at a few of the points that Jackie has asked us to consider this week. So these points open the discussion about the process by which the modern system has been created and developed. And we should consider the question of who was in position to make decisions, and of course, then who would benefit from the new world order that was formed. We should consider that the Allied forces could not have won without the soldiers of Africa and the Middle East. And these soldiers and these countries were fighting for their own freedom. Um, but of course, the colonized countries were trading the conditions of colonization for development and modernization. But it may also have meant that they are trading their culture, their heritage, and their national identities for the new label of Third World. And so people in this new tiers of first, second, and third world all over the world would have to learn that their own lives and conditions were insufficient and that they could be fixed by joining the first world. As you do your readings this week and listen to the podcast, we hope that you'll consider some of these points and reflect on these. And we thank you for listening to our presentation. And I'm sorry that it didn't upload in the Prezi, but I feel the slides are going to get a great conversation started for us this week. Thank you very much for listening.